The air was thick with tension in the Willow Creek Community Center parking lot. I just stepped out of my truck, still in my U.S. Army dress uniform after a memorial service for a fallen brother. My boots barely hit the ground when Helen Carter, the iron-fisted president of our HOA, stormed toward me like I'd committed a felony. "Take off that uniform now!" she barked, her voice echoing. "You're turning this neighborhood into a war zone!" I froze, stunned. The crowd went silent. I just buried a comrade who saved my life in Iraq, and now, in my own community, I was being ordered to strip off the uniform I wore to honor him. "Ma'am," I said, voice steady, "this isn't a costume. I'm coming from a funeral." Helen scoffed. "I don't care. It's offensive, and it violates our HOA appearance code. Take it off or leave." "My name's Jack Riley, retired Special Forces Master Sergeant, for tours overseas. I've faced insurgents, dodged IEDs, and buried more friends than I can count. But standing there, in my own neighborhood, I felt a new kind of rage." Helen wasn't just attacking me, she was spitting on every soldier I'd ever served with. I didn't argue. Instead, I pulled out my phone and texted someone she'd soon wish I hadn't. Because 24 hours later, a convoy of black SUVs would roll into Willow Creek, carrying my Special Forces brothers, and they weren't here for a chat. Let's rewind. 3 months earlier, I'd retired and bought a quiet ranch-style home in Willow Creek. It was perfect, neat lawns, friendly waves, the kind of place you dream about while sleeping in a desert tent. My golden retriever, Bravo, and I wanted peace. But the day I moved in, Helen showed up with a clipboard and a fake smile. "I'm Helen Carter, HOA president," she said, sunglasses perched on her head despite the 85-degree heat. "We're very organized here." That should have been my first red flag. Within a week, Helen filed complaints. My lawn wasn't mowed fast enough. Bravo barked at a squirrel. My American flag was too large. I stayed calm, trimmed the grass, swapped the flag. But when she sent a letter claiming my camel porch chair was too military, I knew she had a problem with my past. My neighbor, Tom, a retired firefighter, warned me. "Helen hates uniforms. It's a power thing." The real clash came the day of the funeral. I'd spoken at a service for Captain Mark Thompson, who took a bullet for me in Syria. His widow asked me to wear my uniform to honor him. After the ceremony, I drove to Willow Creek's community meet and greet, hosted by Helen. Before I could enter, she ambushed me in the parking lot, turning it into a public trial. That's when I texted Ethan, a former SEAL who helps vets like me. His reply was simple. "You free tomorrow?" I smiled. "Always." The next morning, 3 black SUVs rolled into Willow Creek. Out stepped Ethan, Nate, Big Joe, and 3 others, all in veteran outreach uniforms, radiating quiet strength. Helen nearly dropped her coffee. They nodded politely as they passed her, then joined me for a backyard barbecue. She stormed over, red-faced. "This isn't a military base. You can't host soldiers here." Ethan turned, voice calm but firm. "Ma'am, we're state-funded veteran advocates. This is legal. Also, you're being reported for harassing a decorated vet." He handed her a laminated card. "Want a burger?" Helen fled, speechless. 2 days later, an HOA notice arrived, accusing me of unauthorized gatherings and non-compliant appearance. A disciplinary hearing was set. I didn't panic. I called Tom, a civil rights lawyer named Greg, and a local reporter, Sarah. At the hearing, Helen read her charges like a prosecutor. I stood tall, American flag pin gleaming. Greg stood. "Federal law protects veterans' right to wear uniforms. This HOA is risking a discrimination suit." Tom and others vouched for me. An elderly widow, Mrs. Harper, stood with her walker. "My husband died in Vietnam." I'd have slapped anyone who told him to ditch his uniform. The crowd chuckled. The board dropped the charges. Sarah's camera caught it all for the Sunday news. But Helen wasn't done. A note appeared on my windshield. You think you've won? I'll take your house. Then my flagpole vanished, bolts cleanly removed. I confronted her. Where's my flag? She smirked. Maybe it didn't belong here. I clenched my fists but walked away. She called after me. Better check those HOA rules. We're voting on flagpoles and unlicensed dogs next. Bravo? That was a new low. Ethan and I launched Project Pride. Veterans arrived, wearing medals and caps, chatting in my driveway. Neighbors joined, bringing pies, sharing stories. Flags sprouted across Willow Creek. Helen screamed about loitering, but the tide had turned. Then she crossed the line. Sheriff's deputies showed up, claiming an anonymous tip about illegal weapons. They found nothing but my locked handgun and medals. The deputy smirked. Too many tips from HOA presidents. The next morning, 10 SUVs rolled in. Veterans from every branch marched in an honor walk, flags high, families alongside. Helen ran out, screaming, "You're trespassing!" Then she slapped me. Gasps echoed. A deputy stepped forward. "Helen Carter, you're under arrest for assault." Cameras flashed as she was cuffed. My phone buzzed with a message from Greg. "The state wants you for HOA reform." Helen's arrest went viral. Comments flooded in. She slapped a vet on camera? Done for. But she lawyered up, claiming I provoked her. A board member, Paul, warned she was pushing to expel me. We built a case, her letters, fines, threats. At the next meeting, neighbors stood for me. Mrs. Harper spoke. Jack carried my groceries. The Jones family, whose daughter needed a wheelchair ramp Helen blocked, said, "Jack helped us." Helen didn't. Paul's vote saved me. A councilman announced an investigation into Helen's abuses. Then I found a forged deed transferring my home to Helen. At the county office, the clerk gasped. "This is felony fraud." Greg filed an injunction. Days later, a for sale sign with Helen's face appeared on my lawn. I called Veterans for Justice, the councilman, and my old unit. News trucks arrived. A Marine colonel spoke. Ethan roared, "This vet bled for his home. Helen wants to steal it." A court order barred Helen from my property. But she kept swinging. An IRS agent showed up, alleging fake tax fraud. He left embarrassed after seeing my records. In court, I faced her defamation suit. Veterans flanked me in dress uniforms. I spoke. I fought for freedom abroad, only to be silenced at home. Helen didn't want a neighbor, she wanted a subject. The judge dismissed her case, awarded me damages, and protected me under veteran laws. Helen's empire crumbled. Leaked files exposed her embezzling $82,000 in HOA funds and rigging votes. Deputies swarmed her house, seizing evidence. She was convicted of fraud and conspiracy, banned from HOA rolls, her real estate license revoked. Willow Creek elected a new board. A Veterans Fair housing bill passed. My flag flew high, Bravo chased squirrels, and neighbors waved. A note from Paul's wife read, "I feared you, but you showed me peace. I'm sorry." This wasn't just my fight, it was for every vet, every neighbor, every American who deserves a home where they're respected. What do you think? Should Helen have backed off, or was her crusade justified? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and share your take on standing up to power. Let's keep this conversation going.